gentlemen, welcome again to the chat. As you know, I love going up to the top end, specifically to Queensland. I haven't been in Northern Territory yet. I'll do that one day. But one thing we don't see too much of is syndicators focusing exclusively, almost you could say, on Queensland and also the Northern Territory as well. But today, that's becoming a reality. And joining me today is Rob Biddle from Top End Syndications. G'day, Rob. How are you, mate?
G'day, Ben. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's been a while since I last saw you. I think last time we chatted was at the Easter sale in Sydney back in April. I met you through Dave Mead, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yep. Yeah, it was. I spent a fair bit of time with Dave over the last 4 or 5 years, and I ran into you there. It was nice to meet you and chat and have a beer and everything else. It was great fun.
So your new business, Top End Syndications, you've only just launched. What's it all about?
Well, I suppose, look, I've been involved in horse racing for a fair few years in the sense that I've always gone and I've attended and gone to different events. And I spent a fair bit of time as a young kid. I loved horses. From riding horses, playing polocrosse. I even played for New South Wales, polocrosse, camp drafting. I spent a lot of time with horses. When we come to Sydney from my family farm, we'd go down and we'd have a bit of fun and go to the races and go to Harold Park trots. So we had a good grounding, I suppose you could say. My uncle was a mad keen punter. And then as I got into my career, I was involved in agribusiness mainly and an ag place and a farm I owned. And so I spent a fair bit of time working on having horses and seeing people with horses, mustering, working in the top end, seeing a lot of people involved in horses. And I could see that there was a large group of people up here that loved horses. They really do. They love their horses, from stock horses to race horses. And then in between, you've got the miners, you've got people involved in, government work. So there's a lot of people up here that probably don't have the opportunity of becoming part of syndications and watching their horses race, but also have the opportunity of getting horses down south and racing down there as well. So that's the whole idea of what we were doing.
And obviously you haven't got any horses on the books just yet, but are you going to be active at the Yearling sales, including the Magic Millions in January at the Gold Coast?
Yeah, we will. We've got a bit of a two-planned attack, really. I mean, we're looking at tried horses, and we've got a bit of a rating system that Dave, me, and myself have worked out, and we're using that to review before we go in there and buy any tried horses. We're unsuccessful today, but we will have another look. There's plenty of sales every week now. It's wonderful the way things have worked out with Inglis and with Magic Millions. They all have their sales. They've got so much data and information. You go to racing and sports, and you can gather so much information about the past of each of the horses in the tried section. We'll be active in all of the sales, but to start it off, we need to get some horses on the ground and get people out there and into horses. And so we'll be using some tried horses and horses that possibly aren't meeting the standard of Sydney or Melbourne, and could float into that Brisbane, bottom part of Brisbane, then up into North Queensland, into as we call ourselves, the top end.
And just on the top end, in my introduction, I did mention the Northern Territory too. Is there a chance maybe you could go to some of these Alice Springs and Darwin carnivals too? Because more often than not, some of those horses do cross over the border as well.
Oh, for sure. And our ultimate aim is to cover the top end, and that is look at the carnivals from basically Rockhampton all the way up to Cairns, from Cairns across to Darwin, Darwin across to Broome, and then down to the Red Centre, as we say. So, we hope to be having horses running in carnivals up there, and there's new markets, there's cups, there's the Amateur Series in Cairns, there's the Darwin Cup in their series, Alice Springs, and of course Broome's got a series as well. So, we hope to have horses to be able to run around in top end silks across there. But, those type of people, there's an opportunity for so many in the south to join and have some fun with some of the top end people up here. They're great people. They love to get involved in their racing. And for you to come up and join and go to the carnivals, you get to see some of the most amazing carnivals there is. And then on top of all of that, they get to come down to the south and race some quality yearlings, maybe 2 or 3-year-olds, once we get further down the track into some of the races in Melbourne and Victoria and into New South Wales.
And you just mentioned your colours, and you showed them to me before I pressed record earlier, and I've seen them on social media too. What's the story behind them? They're pretty interesting.
There's a bit of a personal story, and there's also a story about the top end. And the story about that personal story is that my beautiful partner, Anessa, has got the most beautiful emerald eyes. And when we got engaged, she wanted an emerald diamond, an emerald ring. So that's what we got. So the emerald colour is part of that. But the real story behind it is after the wet season up this way, most things go beautiful green. And so it's an emerald green representing the top end, and then the lightning down the edge of the sleeves represents the storms that are up here during the wet season. And of course, the three animals that represent the top end more than anything else are fish, mainly the barramundi, the buffalo or the Brahman cattle, which is the one in the centre. And then, of course, you've got the famous crocodile, which represents, that top end. And I think that represents the people of the top end, what the top end's about, and what we hope to achieve from what we're doing, representing the top end.
And how much of a role will your logo and your silks play in trying to attract people is to find out what Top End Syndications is? Because they're certainly very eye-catching.
Look, what I want to achieve is we want to try and get an opportunity for people down south to race with people in the north and vice versa. And I'd like to see the opportunity where the studs and some of the larger owners down south see an opportunity of working in a business sense also with people from the north, because there's a lot of business opportunities up here in the north, whether that be in Darwin or in Cairns. And I think that, getting the opportunity of working together, whether it's the starting of a horse syndication, be part of a syndication, or being part of business that overlaps into syndication, is a great way for them to get together. So, that's some of the part what we're looking at doing, but we're also looking at having women's syndication up this way. We're also having a look at the opportunity for people just from the north mixing with people from the south. And one guy said to me, there'd be nothing better than from people from the north going down to the southern race meetings and taking their cash while enjoying their hospitality. So they're very parochial up here. They love being from the north, and I think that there's a great opportunity for many down the south to join with the north up this way. And
you've got at the moment 3 trainers on your books you're looking to use, including Peter Moody. It's quite well known how much of an influence he has from the top end. I've heard stories about when he was younger, taking horses to tracks like Batuta and that kind of thing.
Yeah, look, we kept that Queensland and also the North theme with what we were doing. So we've got Peter Moody and we've got John O'Shea, who is a Cairns boy originally, did most of his early groundwork up here. And we've got Adrian Coombe, based in Rockhampton, who'll do a lot of the middle section and the Queensland type work. So, and Adrian was a great jockey. Weight got to him in the end, and now he's having a great career. And so I think a mixture of those 3. We're also possibly looking for someone in that southern part of Queensland, around the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. We haven't really made it up yet, but, it'll depend on the amount of horses and where they end up going, and obviously the size of the amount of horses we end up with.
I ask this of all of my guests, Rob. When you're at a yearling sale, what are you looking for? Because obviously everyone's looking for different things or different aspects of the horse, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I suppose, after spending 3 or 4 years with Dave and a few other ones attending many of the sales, you get to look at and understand what they're after. I mean, I spent a lot of my agriculture career buying stud stock for people. So, whether that be a stud bull or a stud ram or judging those. And so you soon get to understand what people are after when they talk about structurally correct, 2 ears, 2 eyes, a tail, that type of thing. So they've all got to have that. They've got to have a bit of pedigree. But to me, it's all about being an athlete. It's having that ability to, when they walk out of the box, they've got that swagger. They've got that wow factor. And you can still see that in a tried horse. There are horses there that may not just be that standard to meet in Sydney and Melbourne, and we all understand that, but they certainly will perform at a level up this way or in the southern part of Queensland. And I think there's opportunities, whether it be at the yearling sales or at the tried sales, and that's the same type of thing we look for when we're looking for them.
And you keep mentioning Dave Mayer. He's an established bloodstock agent in his own right with Pinhook Bloodstock. I've known Dave for a little while now. What have you learnt from Dave, being with him at the sales?
Dave's the ultimate professional. And Dave's as honest as the day is long, and he will, he's willing to give his time, explain things to you, talk about pedigrees, talk about the rating system we talked about. He and I sat down and, he's helped me try and work that through. We're trying to, again, limit the horses that may not perform up this way. So, along with, your scopes and your vet checks and your x-rays and everything else, you then add that into the pile of a rating system, which we hope will be able to work out horses that should be able to perform and win up here, more than the ones that are just hoping we're right. You know what I mean? So, it's just an opportunity then. And Dave helped me go through all of that. He's a great guy, and I've got a lot of time for him. And I think his business is really growing because of that. And I think a lot of people really do like Dave and understand what a great guy he is.
And I think what sets him apart too is he's got a bit of a reputation of being able to find them at value too, and not having to spend money. And some of the ones he has found of value, they've ended up being decent horses, and they've won some pretty good city races down here in the south.
Oh, look, Cisco Bay comes to mind, and I think it might have been a $65,000 $25,000 person. It's won over 400,000. So, yeah. I mean, looking at what Dave, he certainly does have an eye for doing that, and I think that was probably from his early days when he first started off, and as Dave will say, he had to scrounge around to make a living. He was out there buying these type of horses for people to make money, and he's certainly got a great eye for that. And I think it's starting to come through in the horses he's buying for either other syndicators or his other clients that are part of his group of people he buys for. And you need to look at the horses now they're performing. And
you mentioned about Southerners, joining with people in the north. But what else is it that sets apart top end syndications from other syndicators, Rob?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's that ability to be able to mix with people from both sides. So we're going to be in the top and the north and the south. Whereas most of the syndicates, we're the only licensed syndicator that is basically north of the Sunshine Coast. So I think there may be one in Darwin, but realistically, we're the only ones in North Queensland that have got an actual Australian Financial Service license. We're very proud of that, and we work pretty hard to get it, and it's not easily given away. So we're happy to have had that now, and we're going to utilise that. It means that we want to get involved with bringing people from both sides, business together. So there's business opportunities. They race horses together. They can work together. I think that's a great opportunity for a lot of people. And I think because of COVID, we've all been locked into our areas and we've all stuck in our areas. It'll be great to get out and for people to get out and come up and watch their horses race at the Cairns Carnival, at the Darwin Carnival, get across to Broome and go to those carnivals. Because I think a lot of people are still going to be a bit frightened about travelling overseas, but I think they'll still love the idea of going to within Australia once we've opened up our borders everywhere within Australia.
And you're looking for the syndicates for each of your horses you've got in your stable of capping the ownership in each horse?
We're looking at 5%, so that's around 20-odd owners for each. We will, on certain horses of higher value, have to probably maybe to bring the price down and bring it into line, we'll have to go to 50, or 40. But, we hope that, for example, there has been some interest already of some owners keeping a share in their horse but selling the rest of their horse. So, they're keeping 20 or 30% and wanting to race it up here from a point of view of, maybe getting that win up that they need to help the horse when it goes off to stud. That makes a big difference from a mare's point of view to have a win on the books. So, I know we've got some great opportunities up here. And I think there's some wonderful people to get involved with. And I can't wait to kick it off. We will certainly probably be buying. We'll be active. We're active today, but we're unfortunate today. But we'll be back into it at the end of the beginning of next month and the end of next month. There's a sale basically twice a month on English. I think Magic Million's got one a month, and then we go into the ready to run sales, and then all the yearling sales. So there's going to be plenty of horses, and there's always will be plenty of horses around.
And we talk about the carnivals, but just more generally, could you tell those of us down here in the southern states a bit about the racing landscape up in the top end? Is it different?
No, it's not different. I mean, the prize money is certainly a little bit less, but that's the same as in all states. New South Wales and Victoria certainly have the higher prize money. But in saying that, your training costs are significantly less too when you're talking about up this way. But there's race meetings basically in Townsville, Rockhampton, or Cairns at least every 2 weeks or so. There's a race meeting on at each one of those areas. And outside of the wet season, you've got them in Darwin and Alice Springs nearly on alternate Saturdays. And Broome has them leading up to the wet season in that winter time, the so-called winter time over there. So, you've got to pick your times to run your horses over there. A lot of guys take horses up to the Darwin Carnival and then they end up floating across to Broome and having a few races over there, then coming back again. A lot of those horses originally have come from South Australia, but we're going to break that mould a bit and look at opportunities where, for example, there might be a horse that'll suit a Darwin Cup. Darwin Cup's worth a couple of $100,000, so it'll be certainly worthwhile taking a horse that's got the ability to win over there. Same as what the Cup's up this way. They're worth that type of money, so they're great to get involved in and get people from the south and having the opportunity of actually coming up here and enjoying the carnivals as well. That's part of it, the atmosphere that comes with it.
And away from syndicating, racing, breeding, everything in racing, what does Rob Biddle like to do with his spare time?
I love to keep my finger on the pulse in ag. I've always had a passion for agriculture, cattle, sheep. I've actually got one son who's a cattle buyer and flies around buying cattle. So I suppose it's in our blood a bit. And he loves horse racing. He's involved in a couple of horses. I've got children. I've got kids at uni and kids leaving to go to uni, and one in the last year of school. My beautiful partner, as I said, and I like to spend time together. And, we like the beach, going across to the beach. There's some great beaches here. I know there's not much surf. There's some fantastic beaches right up this way from, Kawara Beach itself, right across to Palm Cove, and then further up if you want to go on up to Ellis Beach and Port Douglas. We're basically halfway between Cairns and Port Douglas. So it's a great area. And, we like to get about, have a look at things. I like to travel, go over and have a look at Normanton, go up to the Gulf. But this is going to keep you busy for a while. We want this to be a real success, and we think there's some great opportunities for people to be involved, and especially people involved in, the offside of it. It's not only about racing horses together; it's having fun together. It's meeting and chatting with people and growing good business relationships as well.
There's obviously been a bit of a changing in the guard, you could say, but also improvement with the relaunching recently of the Queensland Thoroughbred Racehorse Owners Association too, with Ben Mannion at the helm and some high-profile people, including Peter Ty on the board. Have you had discussions with Ben or any of those guys yet? Because it looks like they genuinely want to improve the ownership environment and have owners more represented in Queensland.
I believe that's the case. I haven't had the chance to speak to them yet at all, Ben, but from the bit of information I've read and heard, yes, that's the case. And when I get the chance, hopefully the Magic Millions catch up with everyone down there at that point in time. We're all just hoping that the borders are open. I know a lot of the studs and a lot of the people within the industries are really hoping. Up here that, the tourist industry is really suffering. They really are. I mean, it's desperate up here. They haven't had what you would call our dry season, when most of the people come up here when it's, better weather without the humidity. And now we're going into the wet, and, we just hope that the borders are going to be open. And we actually hope that means that, that the Magic Millions will go ahead, because, it'll be a sad day if the borders stay closed, and that can't happen for us.
Well, Biddle from End Syndications, thanks for joining me.